Morning.
Morning.
And welcome. What you bring and who you are enriches us all. We say welcome to your joy, your grief, your hope, your fear, your anger, your pride. We say welcome to all of you. I'm Dave Cook, your service coordinator for today. Giving the reflection today will be Laura Leavitt. Music is provided by John Pinetree on harmonica, guitar, and vocals, Michael Soldos on saxophone, and the Reverend Dr. Leon Dunkley on bass. If you're new to North Chapel, welcome. If you're visiting, we invite you to stand and introduce yourself. It's not a requirement. Please consider signing the guest book at the back of the sanctuary. We have hearing assistance devices and large print versions of the hymns and the order of service on the back table. Tatum Barnes will be leading spiritual exploration this Sunday. After the service, we invite you to visit with each other, and you can join us for coffee and snacks in the social hall downstairs, or you can mingle in the sanctuary. You'll find announcements and upcoming events in the order of service. Every month, North Chapel adopts a worship theme, which is published weekly in Touch, North Chapel's email communication channel for members and friends. The worship theme can also be found in your order of service. The theme for August is change. So thinking about change, I initially thought that maybe there was good change, bad change, change I welcome and change I have to cope with. I think it's hard to plan for changes I don't want. I don't enjoy thinking about them. I find them stressful. I'm not sure I can handle bad changes. And I may not have much warning either. Then there's planning for good changes. Planning for a good change sounds like a great idea, right? When I planned to retire from full-time work, I said to myself, now I'll have more time to do things I enjoy, such as riding my bicycle. Well, I definitely had more time, but did I ride my bicycle more? Nope. In fact, I rode it less, since most of my riding consisted of commuting to work. If I followed them every day, I'd be a changed man. I have daily recurring reminders on my phone, such as do stretches, practice the piano. I don't have to put feed the cat on there because she handles that part. They turn red if I don't record that I've done them. They show up in my calendar. They're my equivalent of New Year's resolutions, and every single day is a battle to actually do them. So that's why I don't do New Year's resolutions. That's way too long a time frame for me. I can't even do today's resolutions. If I find them that hard, how am I going to deal with a longer time frame? May we have the fortitude to cope with what life throws at us and the time to embrace what life provides us. We'll now have a time of meditation.
I was feeling a little nervous coming here this morning, which I shared with a few of you, and I had to remember that the last time that I was on the stage, I was interpretive dancing with Peg. So this should really not feel like anything compared to that. This summer, I was part of a program for teachers across the United States to go on a guided tour of the Galapagos Islands in Ecuador. The idea behind this was that travel experiences shape our teaching, and that we will bring these personal experiences and stories back to the classroom with pictures and data and lesson plans. And the Galapagos is a dream for anyone who is taught biology, because all of the concepts, all the bio standards are there in real life. Island biogeography, evolution, genetic diversity. It's a paradise for science nerds and beach lovers and intrepid adventurers. We took boats to 3 different islands, spending a couple days on each one, each with very different feels. I don't know if any of you have been to the Galapagos before. We hiked volcanoes and we swam on remote beaches. We visited tortoise breeding centers. One morning, my roommate and I woke up very early and we sat on the beach, and a mom and baby sea lion came to shore right beside us. And the baby was nursing and the mom was taking a morning snooze. It was so special. But there was one day in particular that took this trip from awesome to transformative. I took a boat one of the days with about 20 people, a small boat navigating these huge ocean waves and very shallow reefs. I love being on boats, so just this was an adventure. The captain brought us to part of an island that's all surrounded by reefs, and they created a barrier from the big waves. This place is only accessible by boat, and it was very calm and shallow, and there was a maze of hardened lava rock that had formed tunnels and bridges and flat islands that had nesting birds all over them. Because the Galapagos government monitors the number of visitors it permits there every year, we were able to get off the boat and walk over these arches and into these areas where there were blue-footed boobies that were building nests and courting, and we were unbelievably close to them. The male was singing his courting song to the female, and she was preening, and our guide told us that the bluer the feet, the better the fit, because it indicates his ability to find food sources. We had on wetsuits and we grabbed our fins and masks and jumped into these windy channels with these lava caves and arches all around it. And if we hadn't paid attention, we could have easily gotten lost. There were so many bends. And the tide was so low that our floating bodies were very close to everything underneath us. And I don't know if you know the rule about snorkeling over reefs and standing up, but you don't. But it was so shallow that we could have. We were close to the bottom. And so we snorkeled all around these crevices and caves. There were 2 shark dens that my guide sort of forced me to check out, assuring that they were sleeping sharks. But I mean, seeing that many sharks all together while I was directly above them and in their space was still terrifying. We swam around a bend and came upon penguins. Did you know that there are penguins in the Galapagos? And they were perched right on this lava rock, and we were within arm's reach of them. And the biggest sea turtles that I've ever seen were rubbing into us, totally unafraid and unbothered and unfazed by our proximity. The water was so teal blue, the color of the water that we always want the ocean to be. And it was full of these giant, colorful, slow-moving schools of fish that we could get lost in. It was everything to see everywhere I turned. I had several moments of disbelief at what I was seeing, and I had to keep pulling my head up from the water and lift up my snorkel mask to reground myself and see that I was really here. And I would do that, and there were the penguins right there, and there were these pelicans dive bombing right in front of me, and the sky was so blue with not a cloud in it. My eyes were literally watering from the brightness and the color, and emotion, obviously. It was a trippy, unreal experience, except that it was real. And I had to keep looking for my friend Sarah so that I knew that all of this was really happening. It was real, but amplified. The colors, the sizes, the feelings I had. It was sort of a psychedelic, surreal experience. I sought out my snorkel guide to make sure I wasn't lost. And honestly, if he had been any closer, I probably would have grabbed him and made out with him. At least that was my thought process in the moment. I didn't. We saw seahorses and anemones and so many things I don't have names for, and I felt like if I had died that day, it would have been a good day to go. On the boat ride home, still high on this magical experience, we were fed these crappy ham sandwiches, which we all thought were the best sandwiches we had ever had in our lives. You know what I'm talking about, right? We were pretty quiet on the boat ride home. We were all just bewildered and awed at the world. There wasn't anything to say or do, just eat my crappy sandwich and not make out with my snorkel guide. There's a line in my favorite Mo Willems book, Because, after a young girl goes to see an orchestra for the first time. And the line is, "And it changed her. She was changed." Something that day, everything that day changed me. My inner dial was adjusted somehow in some deeply spiritual way. And I'm not a spiritual person. I'm still trying to figure out what that change is, but I was changed. It's ideals and environmentalism and loving people and caring for wildlife, but it's something less palpable too, this promise to live with greater intentionality, do more, do it better, work harder, make change, live my life more. I want my students to see the world. I want them to have that experience that I had snorkeling in the Galapagos, to say yes to adventure, whether it's on local trails or international expeditions, to love getting outside and to use the outdoors every day. Because that is, and you'll hear data that supports this in a minute, the most important thing we could possibly do to support our teens. When I taught in Mendocino on the Northern California coast, I taught a variety of life science classes, and every low tide, we would walk down to the tide pools. Students would explore, they would touch things, walk through natural arches that were usually in the water. Sometimes we measured things and collected data, but mostly we played. High schoolers love to explore, and they sometimes get a bad rap, but they have that childlike sense of wonder at seeing really cool things. But they aren't given that opportunity very often. I teach in a school now with 53-minute periods. Not on the ocean, but we do have a river we can beeline to. And when we hustle, we can make it to the river, we can make a quick chemistry connection and hustle back and only be a couple minutes late to their next class. 53 minutes a day. What a dumb length of time. In 53 minutes, 4 days a week, students are expected to learn content and science practices, and rarely, never, do we cover everything in a school year. But the actual processing, the process, is where learning actually happens. Setting kids free in a tide pool and saying, go explore, find something you've never seen before. Then they learn, they actually learn. These kids went on to study marine science and environmental science and ecology and biology. In this place where kids were allowed to and encouraged to explore, they developed a deep understanding of the environment. And when we truly understand something, we love it. And I think that's what empathy really is, knowing something deeply and loving it. My personal philosophy as a teacher is to help students find their sense of purpose and see the value that they contribute to the world. I want my students to learn that the world they live in is constructed by interdependence between our communities, among living organisms, and that every one of our actions ripples outward into the world. I believe that all students need to connect with the natural world, to experience it intimately, and to see it as more than natural resources, but to see it as a deep well of love, a place for solace and creativity and inspiration and mystery. Knowing it, students will develop a love for it, and then maybe we can raise a generation of people who will save it. Am I nailing this as a chemistry teacher? Absolutely not. Can I be swayed on a beautiful day to go to the river instead of doing a lab? Yeah, almost every time, and students know that. Research suggests that the more time kids spend outdoors, free, unstructured time, the more likely that they will grow up to have a strong sense of environmental stewardship. This means like building a fort in the woods, not playing on a soccer team. As kids become adolescents and then teens, they spend less time outdoors, both within the parameters of school and in their choice time. And the question I'm grappling with as a teacher is how schools, specifically high schools, can increase the intentional time spent outdoors during the school day. In high school, students are pretty sedentary and confined to the buildings that house their learning, and this is a missed opportunity. Students miss out on chances to connect to the natural world. And in this dearth of outdoor opportunities for high schoolers, many students find themselves purposeless and adrift. And what do we see when teens are aimless and aren't really plugged into anything? Lots of screen time, social withdrawal, anxiety, and depression. So I spent a year bringing these kids to the tide pools, and my personal and very small data set shows that giving teens space to play outdoors creates environmental stewards. But how do we expand that to reach beyond a single class on the coast? How do we help students develop a sense of value and a relationship with the earth? How do we make more people care? Well, I think there's a short answer with a complex implementation. Students need to spend more time outside, loosely supervised and with less structured time. Before we expect teens to love the natural world and untangle it to make sense of it, they need to experience the magic of it. This starts with a sense of awe, and that leads to curiosity. Curiosity leads to understanding, understanding to love, and love will lead to stewardship. Imagine collecting a caterpillar on a milkweed leaf and bringing it home, which hopefully we'll all do in the next few weeks, and watch it develop into a green chrysalis with that perfect gold band around it, and watching it every single day until it emerges, and then releasing it outside. When we do that, students will get why we're planting pollinator corridors and why we're trying to ban neonicotinoids. But students aren't spending time outside, so they're not seeing the magic of the world, let alone taking it apart to understand it. In a school setting, students are not experiencing the awe, so their curiosities are not piqued, and they lack a concrete care for the world because it feels other from the world that they spend most of their time in. It feels crazy to say that this may be necessary, but students are not explicitly taught that it's enjoyable to spend time outdoors. And so they may not learn the self-care that comes from being outside, developing awe, experiencing curiosity, and that sense of purpose that derives from caring about something. In schools and society, we are creating a generation of students who not only lack stewardship, but suffer from issues that would be mitigated by spending time outside: screen addiction, anxiety, depression, shortened attention span. So I'm a teacher, and I'm hard-pressed to develop a solution that fits into that 53-minute block. Last year, I wrote a grant to bring my AP Environmental Science students to St. John in the US Virgin Islands. Outdoors, loose agenda, unstructured free time, discrete science content, yeah, all those things. An annual trip to perform research in an academic pathway that focuses on environmental sustainability? I hope so. That's one of the things my science department is trying to build into our school to tackle this issue. See, students need to experience the world beyond the familiar. Students need to travel. Teachers who bring kids traveling work their butts off to provide external learning experiences for students because we know their lives are forever changed because of it. Sometimes reasons are less identifiable and learning targets are harder to define, and trips may be hard to justify. I fundraised when I taught 4th and 5th grade to bring kids on a whale watch. And even though we paid for the whole thing with a year's worth of bake sales, I had to validate the trip by making connections to science content. It couldn't just be that the kids are gonna freak out when they see whales because it's so awesome. I wouldn't have been signed off on. So when bringing high school students to the Caribbean, I created this week-long trip for my class that involved camping, swimming, snorkeling, hiking, morning beach workouts. My other chaperone was the gym teacher, so did a lot of push-ups on the beach. We snorkeled every day, one time to watch local high school students scuba diving over a coral nursery that they were propagating. We got trained by the national park on how to monitor sea turtle nesting sites, and we learned about indigenous people who preceded the European settlers on the island. Kids all took some time to themselves. They played a lot of card games. Everyone took shifts making meals and washing dishes. But in the evenings, and this was the best part of the day, of the whole trip really, that would never fit into a science standard, we had sunset swims as a whole group. We would share our roses and thorns swimming in a circle as the sun was setting, and we laughed really hard. Some people even cried as we got deeper into our trip. It was really special. We had almost a full year of AP coursework that was relevant and could be seen and deeply understood on our trip. Students teased each other for dropping terms like ecological services and tragedy of the commons, but the connections to that science content were made effortlessly and without my encouragement. Professor Miles Richardson of the University of Derby expresses concern in his research that there is a failing relationship between people and nature, and this could be detrimental in the deliverance of a sustainable future. Students really may need to be taught to gain an appreciation for the natural environment. The School Design and Planning Laboratory at the University of Georgia has shown that when students are learning in outdoor settings, as compared with staying in the classroom, they learn more, faster. They appreciate the experience more, and they retain skills and knowledge longer. The pedagogy of outdoor learning environments that bring indoor and outdoor activities together, think AP content on climate change, and then snorkeling coral reefs and seeing bleached corals, integrates that abstract concepts with hands-on learning opportunities, and often leaves students with an enriched understanding. Across all ages, it has been shown that interacting with nature promotes psychological, physiological, and social well-being and health. I'm gonna blow through a condensed chapter from my unfinished thesis that was all about getting kids outside. So these are some fast, short facts. Being in the natural world boosts self-esteem and moods, reducing feelings of anger. It relieves anxiety and depression. Connecting with nature also has cognitive benefits, academic performance, concentration, and more successful performance of mentally challenging tasks. Being outdoors relieves stress and has been shown to decrease health problems and improve the immune system. Research points to improved test scores, improved self-discipline, and reduced behavioral problems and symptoms of ADHD. There was even a study that came out a few years ago by researchers in Australia that spending 90 minutes a day physically changes the shape of the eye, minimizing nearsightedness. And most important, spending time outdoors leads to overall happiness. Happiness is often paralleled with well-being. which consists of general life satisfaction, the presence of positive emotions, and the absence of negative emotions. In a state that struggles with generational drug addiction and mental illness, if we can get kids to connect with nature, to find joy in being outside, we may be building the most important foundation in strengthening community. Okay, so we gotta get kids outside. Ideally, we do this as collective parents, recreating norms that used to exist, where kids are outside without grown-ups in potentially mildly dangerous situations where they are going to get hurt and probably lost and have to make decisions for themselves. But as a teacher, how do I support kids that are not going outside at home? How do I make the outdoors accessible to all of my students? How can I help them use nature to find their purpose and connect with the natural world, knowing their valuable place in it, and then become people who are going to take care of it? School, not surprisingly, does not rank at the top for ways of shaping environmental stewardship. But traveling with students, showing them these coral reefs on St. John, or the lady slippers at Eshwa Bog, or even measuring water quality in the river behind my school, will deepen their environmental experiences. As a teacher, I'm working to develop programs to involve students in field work and investigations outdoors. The most impactful school experiences are when students can take action rather than passively learn in the classroom. So, field work, take action, real issues. So what do we do as teachers, as schools, as superintendents? I think we take these kids and we travel. We take them and we go. To the Virgin Islands, yeah, every April. To the Galapagos, yeah, maybe if we can fund it. To new cultures, to innovative agricultural systems, unfamiliar geology, foreign languages, to experience as much new stuff as possible. Let's go for a week. Let's build an in-house study abroad program. Let's make this interdisciplinary. When we go out of the familiar and we are immersed in the bigger world, we return with students who are changed, whose inner dials have shifted, who have experienced wonder. They are happy, and they've developed deep relationships, and they've had a new exposure to the world. We need to help students turn that dial, to expose them to as many things as possible, because some of those things will stay with them forever. I want both travel and deep experiences in the natural world to be opportunities that everyone has access to, because all kids deserve the benefits of cultural immersion and seeing new places. And this is an investment that our communities will benefit from supporting. We will generate new stewards who are global citizens, who welcome and care for people who are different from them, who have ecological values and remain open-minded. We have a lot of work to do. We are up against a lot. Funding streams, xenophobia, the governor. But travel and the magic of seeing new places has to be an option for students. This can look like backpacking in the White Mountains, or canoe camping in the Adirondacks, or spending a weekend in Quebec. I just got a grant this summer from the Appalachian Mountain Club to start bringing kids outdoors. And it's New England, but there are still gonna be new landscapes and experiences. If I was reminded of one thing in the Galapagos, just punched in the gut during that epic snorkeling day, it's that the world is full of magic. And my eyes were reopened to that and to the beauty that is everywhere. And I want my students to feel the hope and magic that I'm filled with now. Thank you.
May we have the fortitude to cope with what life throws at us, and the time to embrace what life provides us.